does.
There was a photo shoot with the kids at Daystar, a Christmas photo shoot, and their own mother was not allowed on the set. Like, why?
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Wake Up and Win podcast. We're your hosts, Blaise
and Christina.
It's great to see you guys again, and thanks for your patience on getting another episode out. I know that everything going on with Daystar has been crazy. I mean, we put out the first story on our channel 10 days ago, and then it was like Elving and Torn Curtain, and then all these different stories were popping out. We pushed pause because of the holidays.
Yeah,
frankly.
Blaise's birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
And we celebrated Thanksgiving with our fam.
Yep. So we've been in Thanksgiving mode, so happy Thanksgiving to you guys. And we wanted to come back, though, because we've got quite a bit going on in this story, and we just want to give some context to everything that's going on for those of you that trust our voice and listen to us. So since the last time that there's been a full release audio by Julie Royce.
Mm-hmm. So last time we did like a clip of the Jimmy Evans and Jonathan Lamb.
Right.
The Voice of God audio.
Explain what that is, just for those that didn't hear it.
Jimmy Evans told Jonathan and Suzy that Joni was the voice of God to them.
Yeah.
At Daystar.
Yeah.
It was just weird. It was
uber weird.
Yeah, and it showed you just a little glimpse of the kind of like spiritual manipulation that they've been under for the past, I don't know, entire life. It seems like maybe.
Yeah.
Just the whole like covering idea and using it to your own advantage and benefit, even when it doesn't exactly apply. Telling them they don't have their own personal convictions. Their personal convictions do not matter. What matters is what Joni says.
Joni Lamb and Jimmy Evans both said, you're not here to go by your convictions. You're here to submit. They said the word submit like so many times.
Yeah. It was a lot.
It's kind of like demanding submission. I don't understand that concept. It doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. Like you kind of have to do that with a child sometimes, but even I would hope that you wouldn't even have to necessarily do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, kids kind of act up, but it's like in life as adults, even, I mean, in marriage, the whole idea of, hey, you have to submit, it's like kind of weird. It's like you should live your life in a way that makes people want to listen to you. If you're like, so when I'm hearing this audio, I'm like, literally, Joni's actually, I kind of want to just hear this one clip because we're talking about it. Mm-hmm. It is mind blowing. So I don't know what page this is, but somebody just pulled the clip from
Prophetic News TV, Susan.
Yeah, something. So this is just to give you guys an idea. And I would encourage all of you to go listen to the full, what is it, hour and a half?
Oh, yeah, that's what we're going to say. Since then, the full hour and a half, did you say?
Has been released.
Audio has been released.
Yeah.
So it's worth listening
to. It's worth giving a full listen because it'll give you a ton of context into what was going on. Because so many people are like, well, why didn't they leave? Or
why did they listen to them? Why did they do this? It's like, you guys, they were manipulated. You
don't understand until you've been in these situations for years with spiritual manipulation and spiritual abuse. Mm-hmm. But just listen to some of the clip here.
Or you can say you are submitted. Right. Either way, it's in your court. Right. But if you're not willing to submit, you just need to get yourself and don't come back. All right, so I'll say it again. I've always been fully submitted. The only thing I wasn't going to do was read things that I want to hear either you're submitted or you're not. If you're submitted, we can work through this. So your submission is just whatever you put in, whatever card you put in my hand, whatever it says, I have to read it, and that's the job. Yeah. Okay. Well, the job I submitted to here at Daystar is ministry to serve God, and not about Doug. So in that case, I will stand my convictions to be here for God and not about Doug. Okay. Well, you're not called to be here for God.
I'm sorry.
You are not called to be here for God.
Okay. Yes, I'm laughing because that is a joke.
Yeah.
I've worked at a church down in East Texas. I worked in a big ministry down in East Texas, and I worked in Kansas City, and then I had my own little ministry for a couple of years. Every ministry I've ever worked at, I was there to serve the Lord first. No boss ever told me, you're not here to serve God, you're here to serve me. I mean, I think she said that, and I think she heard what came out of. She
correct herself.
She didn't correct herself, but she's kind of like,
you're not called to even say those things that you're saying.
You see that? She's like, you're not here to serve God. You're not called to even say those things you're saying.
You're called here to serve. Okay. And that is me serving God. If you don't want to serve.
She said, that is me serving God. So in context, she married Doug. And there's a whole story to that. So if you don't, like, basically, as soon as Marcus died, Doug divorced his wife
of 30 years.
And then
the marriage counselor.
Yeah.
He divorced his own wife of 30 years.
And Jimmy Evans said he approved of the divorce because it was abandonment, is what he called it. He called it abandonment. So anyway, however, like, allegedly, that's how it all went down. Okay. So
allegedly.
Yes, allegedly. In fact, everything we say on our channel and comment to a story or an article, it's all allegedly and based on the reporting of what we're hearing and what we're saying. And we're giving our opinion on all of these things. That's what we do on our YouTube channel all the time. It's just opinion, and you guys should go check it out and dig in deeper. So what happened is they were on the show, and Suzy was handed a card, a viewer comment that said something about, oh, your Doug is so great. I'm so happy for your new marriage to Doug, and I think it's so awesome. And Suzy was like, I don't want to read that, because she didn't agree with it. So she didn't read it. So she got pulled in on this meeting. So that's the context.
You don't need to come back.
You need to serve and submit to me, or you don't need to come back.
Okay. And that's your choice. I gave you the choice. I never will quit. I would never, because I don't have permission from God. But if I'm being fired, so be it.
Can I say something?
Of course. In your court. I just, like I said,
You submit to my authority or you don't.
yeah, like whatever I say is Judy.
So here's the thing. I said this on the last podcast, but I got to say it again. It's okay in a business for a boss to be like, this is your job. You're not doing your job. If you don't do your job, you are fired. That's so normal. But it's so not normal to be like,
Spiritualize things.
you do not serve God at a ministry.
Yes.
To say you do not serve God, you serve me, and you submit to me fully, no matter what that means. You submit to me, or else you're gone. It's just so weird to add like the spiritual manipulation into a job environment. It's so weird.
Yeah. And I don't think it's in this clip, but Jimmy Evans says, allegedly it's Jimmy Evans in this recording. Jimmy Evans says, she is the voice of God to you. And Jonathan says, wait, can you clarify? He says, she's the voice of God to you at Daystar. And he says, you mean I can't hear God for myself? I have to hear God through her. And he said, outside of Daystar, yeah, you can hear God, but in Daystar, she's the voice of God for you. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. But let's keep
All
going.
right.
If I'm not comfortable, then I have to stick with my convictions. Well,
So she said, if I have to read something that I'm not comfortable with, then I need to stick with my convictions.
Whatever you read, if you don't agree with the viewer's comment, it's not your right to agree or disagree with it. If a viewer has a comment about me or you or anybody else, it's a nice comment. That's a good thing to read it. That's not a bad thing to have anything to do with you. You're reading a viewer comment.
I'm representing it. It's a lie.
You're not representing it.
I'm reading it out. I'm reading it.
It's not a lie.
It's a lie if I say something I don't
It has nothing to
believe.
do with you.
If I say something I don't believe it. I'm not going to
It has
dismiss that.
nothing to do with you. It is a viewer comment.
I'll be honest. I think they gave her that card on purpose.
Yeah.
They knew that she didn't feel, and they wanted to be like, read this.
People are saying, joking, guys. People are joking that it was that Joni wrote the viewer card. That it wasn't sent
Allegedly,
from a viewer.
it's not true. We know.
Joni wrote
We
it
know. We know
and
that she
wanted her
didn't
to
write
read
it. Yeah. Yeah. Daystar is out there taking everybody's YouTube video and like chopping them to pieces and saying, this is not true. This is a bold-faced lie. It's like, come on. Are you like, that is such a old school mindset of anybody that is watching long form content and realizes that and just breaks down everything that you're saying as factual when long form content is opinion based, especially when you're reacting to things. It's opinion based. So anyway, let's keep going.
It's not a Suzy comment. It's a viewer comment.
I can't go against my convictions in that, and I'm
Well,
not
don't
challenging.
come back then.
Okay.
You're gone. You're fired.
She fired her because she wouldn't read the viewer comment. I just think that
And it's so cold. It sounds so cold, the whole thing, you know? Which I know that, like, these conversations with them that has probably been going on for,
been
like,
going
a
on for a
long
long
time, you know, for a while. So, but it just seems so cold.
yeah, it does. It does. And this
Like
is
to tell your daughter-in-law, look her in the face, like, all right, you're gone, you're fired, you're out for something like this. It just seems so ridiculous.
yeah, it does.
It's like, just get someone else to read the
Get
card.
someone else to read the card. Like, what's the point of creating this? And I'll just say regarding Joni in this, my opinion is that the way she handled it caused it to blow up in her face. She could have handled this, in my opinion, in such a smoother way to not cause this to blow up in Daystar's face.
for this specific situation. Yes. For sure. Be like, okay, this is definitely a sore subject for the family.
Yeah.
I know that they are uncomfortable with this marriage, so I'm not going to force them to read a card. Like, it's so easy to
allegedly,
not make this happen.
There was other family members, children, that felt just as strong or even stronger before Suzy did about this whole situation the same way. And so it's like, come on, Joni, like, you got to realize there was a whole storm around this topic, and you're just going to come in and just be like, hammer it like that to cause it to blow up. And so all this that's happening, because right now, when it first came out, I'm watching like a few YouTube channels hit it, and it's like, but it's blowing up. And I'm like, but here we are 10 days later, and what Daystar has done, I've seen Daystar send out warning letters to YouTubers, like people posting about getting warning letters. I'm like, you think that's helping? That is not helping the process, because it's silencing. And Joni is on record talking on stage about President Trump and free speech. And
that's funny.
That is really funny.
You want to fix that.
Yeah. Joni's on stage talking about free speech and censorship. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the culmination of censorship, like trying to shut down YouTubers from commenting on this public story. But anyway, let's. I think that's.
You can't read a nice comment about Doug. I don't want you here. Yeah. You won't do the green room. You won't do anything. Okay.
I want to hear the rest of it.
I think that's it. That's where she gets fired. So is kind of the context here as Suzy's talking. So let's keep listening. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Wake Up and Win Insurance. We've been helping clients all over the United States with term life, whole life, universal life, and annuities for coming on 8 years now. If you're looking for a way to protect your family, life insurance is probably one of the best ways to do that, and it's not hard to get in place. Work with over 25 insurance carriers, and I can help almost anybody in any situation. There are also ways to do infinite banking concepts, which is basically life insurance with a savings account attached to it. I've got a lot of clients that really like that option. If you're interested, hit me up. Link below, schedule an appointment, and I'd be happy to do a free consultation and see if I can help you out.
Come out to have the truth out there. It's really been freeing in a lot of ways, because we don't have to have something that we're hiding. It's out in the open.
Yes, that's true. But also, I would add that since this is such a absolutely deeply traumatic thing that we've gone through, obviously us sitting here can never fully express what we've walked through in these past few years. I mean, I don't even want to get into the process of what that looked like, but it was excruciatingly painful. So yes, there is that freedom in not having to depend on a few people and keep begging for justice and having it minimized and turned down and, just hitting a wall, like a dead end. There's peace and satisfaction now. When the story came out and the way people received it, and I felt like the floodgates of justice opened on us, when everyone validated what we as parents felt, we really wanted to do a short video. This is not the time or place that we want to get into our whole story. Jonathan and I just quickly grabbed the camera, sat down here to address a few questions. We will be doing some podcasts with amazing people and get into the nitty-gritty and the deep things. We told a few journalists our story, and then they have full control of what we've given them. We have no control. We told the truth. They do the investigation. That takes months. It takes a long time. So this is not something that just started now. This has been building. I'm proud of them for doing their due diligence.
Yeah. And everything started initially back here, November 2020. Mm-hmm. Like, so when she says it's been building for a long time, it's just been going on for a very long time. November 2020, child tells me about the initial abuse allegation.
And at the time, they didn't know who it was.
Didn't even have an idea. Police. And she said they asked the child. Allegedly, they asked the child.
Was it someone
from school? And she nervously went, yeah. And she said, how tall were they? And she said, taller than daddy.
Or I think she said, like, what do they look like? Like, try to get her to describe them.
So anyway, this happens November 2020. They go to the police the very next day, because people have asked, like, why didn't you go to the police? Or they went to the police the next day. They went to the school. Apparently, allegedly, she went with Joni to the school. Mm-hmm. And when she went to the school, they found that there was no male employees at the school, so they closed the case. August 2021. Mention this one because that.
So in between November 2020 and August 2021, they suspect Pete. Their sister Rebecca warns them about Pete.
Allegedly.
Says watch out for Pete. He's sketchy. That's not her quote. But basically what she told them was like, Rebecca warned them about Pete. Okay. So she saw something was there, told them. So everybody's eyes are like, okay, this guy's a little off, like hide your kids type thing. So then Pete tells them that their child walked in on him in the shower.
Yes.
And she'll talk about that in the video too, I'm pretty sure. Then Jonathan walks in on Pete with their daughter.
Unclothed.
Completely unclothed. People are like, why was he there? What's going on? This was a relative, and this was a family trip. Mm-hmm. So like, and they haven't seen anything yet. They didn't know anything yet. And everybody's trying to convince them that he's a good guy. And by everybody, I mean Joni.
And Marcus took him aside and said, this person has been cleared, completely cleared. So what are you going to do? Be like, okay, so they're cleared. Do I trust my dad?
Right, which is what they're told on August 2021. Mm-hmm. They're told he's cleared.
Yeah. So November 2023, they find out that this whole process, the forensic psychologist, didn't happen the way they were told.
But he didn't answer the questions. His wife did, and then he never came back for the follow-up interview that was just supposed to be him. It never happened. Then the audio on the last podcast we did, we shared the audio of, was it Boggs saying that Joni and Marcus called her and told her to shut it down, that they didn't want any more documentation, they didn't want any more interviews of this, they want it shut down. So they completely shut down the investigation, then lied to Jonathan and Suzy and told them that Pete was cleared and innocent. Mm-hmm. So then come to find out November 2023, they find out none of that's true. Like,
so you have to think, because I think for a lot of dudes are kind of giving Jonathan the like treatment a little bit, and like, dude, why didn't, and I think he kind of addresses this. Mm-hmm. Why weren't you throwing hands? Why weren't you like going nuts? Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, the situation he walked in on, there was nothing physical happening, and it couldn't be fully proven that couldn't be fully proven at the time. Mm-hmm. So, but it was enough for him to lose his temper and yell and make a scene and cause the whole family to be disrupted for years.
Yeah.
And so but he was cleared according to Marcus. Mm-hmm. So immediately he's defended by the whole family. Mm-hmm. And so for him to find out in August 2023 or November 2023, whenever that was, that he wasn't cleared, November 2023, that right there is the kicker, because now you're like, okay, reopen the investigation.
Right.
Like,
so this is the point where I think people need to recognize the timeline, because I still see people confused, being like, well, he still wanted to be president after that, and that was addressed in the last article. So the partial email that Joni put out of Jonathan saying we can put this episode behind us, was talking about the episode that we just heard with Suzy and Joni about reading the card.
Yeah.
But the SA episode, they were not willing to put behind them, and they didn't find out that the investigation never happened until after that email that he sent. Then they said, once we knew that, we didn't care about our jobs.
We didn't care about our jobs anymore.
We just wanted justice for our daughter. So there are some like people on Twitter wanting to act like they would be willing to
get their job back now.
Yeah.
I'm literally watching people right now be like, oh, Jonathan still wants to get his job back.
It's like, he does not want his job back. That's not the thing. You guys are going off of half of an email that was written a year ago and before they ever knew that the investigation never took place.
Honestly, well, I can have mercy for some people that are just not informed yet. But for some people that have been in this space for a long time and watching this type of stuff, like the lack of understanding that I'm watching, the literal purposeful blindness to it, it's like, it's really strange. And we've talked not to Joni. We have not talked to Joni. Do not take that same.
She's reached out
through a third party. We may get coffee, allegedly. There's an invite, not to the third party, but to Joni. We have table talk. Table talk.
Is that her show?
Yeah, table talk.
That's funny.
But yeah, we've talked to Jonathan and Suzy, and these people do not want that job back. They wouldn't want, I mean, you want to work with those kind of people? You just heard that? Like, she's God to you. It's like,
listen, they don't even want to go to Thanksgiving. You think they want to go to work with you? That is like ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, let's listen to what they were saying. Cause let's see, where's it at? But yeah, the timeline, babe. I think the timeline is really important. Because
I do too, because that's the biggest thing, and that's why I like keep going back to it, because it's like that email was sent before they found out the investigation never happened.
The email from
Jonathan that Joni shared in her statement, the partial email that she shared,
it was
wanting
a total
to lead
misrepresentation.
everyone to believe that he would let go of the essay of his daughter if he could be president. That is not true.
Yeah.
So anyone still spreading that, like,
is purposely
is doing it. Yeah. At this point, you're doing it on purpose, because it has been.
Y'all need to get served some papers from somebody.
For real. Suzy and Jonathan, y'all need to send out some letters.
That's the difference, though. That's the difference of like, again, I'm just gonna say, like, generationally, it's like, it's a different generation of information. You fight with information and truth. Mm-hmm. You fight with overwhelming amounts of truth, not silencing. Like, that's the total difference between the old guard of, the TBNs and Daystars. It's like, okay, they're saying something bad about us, threaten them, silence them. It's like, no, they're saying something bad. Okay, let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it all. Let's clear it up. All right, let's keep going.
And so I thought the reason I suggested we do this video is because I didn't realize how much it would blow up. Jonathan had kind of an idea. I genuinely didn't. And since we've been on TV so much and people have loved us so genuinely, I felt it was cruel to not answer a few questions that people who genuinely love us want these answers to.
All right, so these are 4 of the most common questions that we've got over the last few days. 1 is, why didn't we go to the police? And why did it take so long to talk? 2, why did I not put my hands on this man? And 3, why did Suzy scream for me to go up versus her just going up herself? And 4, why are we not going public?
Yeah.
So let's unpack the first question, is why didn't we go to the police? Well, we did go to the police, actually twice.
I think to answer the second question, why do you wait so long to talk? I would say let's go through the timeline, because I understand in an article, there's a bit of back and forth because it's so complex. So we'll just go in a streamline. We're going to do a super concise version because this is going to be a short video. It'll all keep coming out. We have a little bit of notes here for just the main highlights. So let's pick up from where it all began. I would start with in the summer of 2020. Actually, in early spring 2020, my sister noticed my daughter's behavior being strange, stiffening up when people came close. And I started to notice that too, but, I didn't take it very seriously. I thought just part of growing. And then by that summer, on a trip, we're going to be a little careful with our words here. We have to be. On a trip, this man says that our daughter walked in on him in a bathroom, saw him full frontal nude. At this point, this is also new to me. I didn't really know what to do with it. I just said, okay. Since he told me, I just said, okay. And I went and checked on my child. She seemed fine. So I was like, okay. I don't know if I even told you or not that day. Then as the months start to progress, she starts to get, her behavior is changing. November of 2020, she tells me in very graphic detail that she had. In that moment, I went to my confidant, the person I really, truly, with my whole heart trusted. That was another question. Why did you go there? It was about 5:30 in the evening. Jonathan hadn't come home from work, and I was ready to get in the car and go to the police. But this woman I really trusted said, no, we're going to talk to the teachers. When I talked to my child that day, when she told me.
Well, this woman, it's my mom. You can just say the name.
It's still hard. It is still hard. It's easy to talk to a journalist.
I get that.
It's so interesting because I remember whenever we were doing the IHOP KC podcast, whenever it first, the IHOP KC scandal coverage, whenever it first happened, you worked closely.
I worked closely with Stuart Greaves for 4.5 years, like very closely.
Yeah, years ago. Mm-hmm. So whenever all this broke and he was standing up on stage and all this was happening, we would do our podcast and we would call out like specific things that people were doing, like Dave Sliker and obviously Mike Bickle. And I remember you being like, yeah. And then I worked with this high level leader and I would be like, say his name, mm-hmm. or like say Stuart. And you were like, didn't realize you were doing it. But afterwards you were like, told me, you're like, yeah, it's so hard. It's so weird to even say his name.
And part of that actually is not just like the fact that you don't want to, that it's triggering for you as a person to say that person's name. It's more so like if you've been through a process of spiritual manipulation or spiritual abuse, whatever you want to call it, where it psychologically and spiritually affects you, and somebody kind of is seeking to control you and control your decisions based on being your covering, then, but it's also, you care about that person. You care as a person. So there was always for years, like, I mean, I never wished ill on Stuart in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think that Suzy wishes ill on Joni at all.
Yeah,
it's her
so
mother-in-law. I think that she actually cares about her and loves her. And that's why she's saying, like, I care so much. So it's hard to say. It's hard for me to say her name because but it's also, it's like this, there's pain involved because it's years of this process of confusion of like love, I wouldn't say love, hate, but like love and then control. And then love and then control. And it's a mixture. So it's
like love if I can control.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And then when you can't control, you don't.
Yeah.
It's like, read the card.
As soon as you can't control the narrative, as soon as everything isn't like your way, as soon as people aren't fully submitted to you and everything all of your life decisions, then it's like, you're out.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I guess, and another, we won't get into it, but I guess people have been sending me a video by John Paul Jackson from 10 years ago on Daystar with Joni. He's sitting there with Joni at Table Talk 10 years ago. John Paul Jackson was, some on our channel might think he was a heretic, some might think he was the prophetic guy, whatever. But anyway, he's literally talking about unmasking the spirit of Jezebel. And one of the things that he says to Joni, he says, when a person's voice becomes the voice of God to their people, and they get it set up that way, that's the spirit of Jezebel at work.
Wait, so he's saying that is not a good thing.
He's saying it's a terrible thing.
It's not a good thing for you to be the voice of God to your people.
He's saying when somebody sets themselves up as the voice of God to their people, that is Jezebel manifesting.
That is wild.
So literally,
she was like, "You're not coming back. Get in here, Jimmy Evans."
Jimmy's like, she's the voice of God. She's the voice of God to Daystar. It's like literally the exact same thing.
Wow,
it's pretty crazy.
Is really wild.
And so I think that, and I don't know, but I would not be surprised if Suzy's getting the lobs of like accusations of Jezebel and controlling and raising your voice and ruining the family and all this stuff. But I'd say
they definitely think she's controlling. They said she has Jonathan by the.
I
won't say the B word. I won't say the B word. I got in trouble last time. Somebody could not believe that I would read that quote. And I am just very, very apologetic to anyone who was harmed.
It was a long, drawn out thing about holiness. I'm like, bro, we're just literally listening to Joni Lamb. All right, let's go.
Yeah, send that message to Joni Lamb, not me.
He
I
did.
was reading her quote.
He sent it to Joni.
Oh, he did?
Oh, yeah, and Suzy. He sent it to everybody. He sent it, I'm just kidding. I don't know. All right, where are we at? Let's see.
One-on-one person, but going public, it genuinely hurts. These are people that we love. These are not people we're angry at or hate. Okay, sorry. I'm trying not to get emotional. So, I asked my child. I have no practice with this. I don't know what leading questions are or not. I assumed it was a school. Her world was so small. Home, school, and we'd take her to Daystar. So, I assumed it was a school. Asked her, is it at school? She was nervous and just nodding. I found out since, counselors have explained that behavior to me now, and it all adds up. It all makes sense. And I said, was it a girl or a boy? She said a boy. And I said, how tall? Trying to gauge the age. And she said, taller than daddy. That struck fear in my heart because dad is a man. A 5-year-old doesn't, know to communicate that. Okay, picking up the pace. Once that happens, we go to school and, this confidant, the one I trusted, after we talked to the teachers and they said there's no male here, it's almost like, okay, we've done our part, case closed. And I told Jonathan, I don't want to get talked out of this. I don't want to have a discussion with your family. Let's go to the police. We went to the police, filed a report. They did a quick little investigation since there was not much to go on. They closed the case pretty quickly because our daughter was terrified. She wouldn't talk anymore.
At the school, so
a lot of things, small things happen from talking to, people processing, other family members.
And allegedly, Joni met with, according to the Roy's report, Joni met with the daughter. Mm-hmm. And after Joni met with the daughter, she never would talk about it again. The daughter would never talk about it. So the police couldn't do anything. They shut down the investigation because the daughter wouldn't talk.
Out with concerns. Things happen. We're more vigilant over our child. We get a nanny in the picture to keep her away. She's terrified to go to Daystar. We do, however, go on that family vacation in August of 2021. This is a big one. This would answer the question of, I guess the first question is, when you walked up that day, why did you not put your hands on the man?
Well, when I walked up there and I saw Pete up there with my daughter, I was horrified. The first thing I started doing was screaming, "What are you doing?" Obviously, since his hands weren't on my daughter, he wasn't in the act, he was just in the room with her. I wasn't at that time about to put hands on him or beat him up, but obviously I was horrified and I was just shouting him down, and that led to him multiple times, probably 50 times, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." So again, it felt like I caught him red-handed and doing something that he shouldn't have done. And as evidenced by the fact that Suzy saw him follow up my daughter after she had told her to change into her swimsuit.
Well,
so there's intent.
I'll add this. To complete your answer, first, if that man's hands were on our child's body, that man would have been leaving that house in handcuffs. The police would have been called. When I saw Jonathan, because Jonathan and this man,
I still see people commenting, like, why didn't you file a police report that very night? Like, why didn't you, like, clearly there's some nuance to this whole situation. It's not like they were just not protecting their daughter. He literally raised his voice and yelled at the guy, "What are you doing in here? Like, what's going on?" And the guy started profusely apologizing. As Pete, there is no reason
for you to be in that room.
You're not going to be in that room. Like, I wouldn't be following up another person's daughter, even if they're my family, to a private room. Like, there's no way on earth.
Especially if you know they're changing into their bathing suit. And then also that, like, I get things happen fast, but you've got time to get out of that room.
Exactly.
A lot has to happen before that kid is completely unclothed and you can get out of that room. When Jonathan was going up, you should have been halfway out the door.
Walking down. Walking down.
Yeah,
and
it should have been like, "Oh, you're changing? Okay, I'm heading out now." You know? Like, you shouldn't have been in there anyways, no matter even if a child is clothed. I don't think, like, a grown man should be alone with a 5-year-old in a room that's not his daughter.
Yeah.
But either way, definitely as soon as things start to look a certain way, you have to get out of there. And that is, like, just the fact that he was in there
apologies. Over apologizing in that type of scenario reeks of, in my opinion, something not good. Because what are you apologizing for? Like, what are you apologizing for? What was planned? What was in your mind? What was going on, Pete? Allegedly, what was the plan? Or what were you doing? Like, what was happening? So it's like, oh, hey, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm out. You know what I mean? That is like, you get out, or it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And Jonathan's response, honestly, and this is not, I'm not trying to be biased or unbiased, or like, I'm just looking, I guess I am trying to be unbiased, but I'm just looking at him going, his response makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I do feel like I would probably, like, punch someone in the face.
It depends on what he saw. I'd like to know, I mean, and maybe not, I don't know, but I'd like to know what he did see, how the context. But I
also get the, like, that you want to say that you would do all these things.
Right.
But whenever you are, like, faced with it, like, you can freeze, you can be, like, so in shock. And there's also always that part of you that is like, this is not happening.
This is not
happening. I am going crazy right now because I know that my daughter is not,
Pete's
like...
a good guy, and, like, all these... Pete's a good guy. That's not what's happening.
So it's like a split second, and you have to... But, I mean, he yelled at him, and he got him out of there.
Yeah.
Which is all he technically could do. I mean, can you imagine the drama if he had put his hands on him?
Yeah, and apparently it causes enough ruckus to get the attention of everybody, so let's keep listening.
Came down the stairs from our children's room. I guess Jonathan made him come downstairs. When I saw Jonathan, we've been married, at that point, how many years? 10 years?
10 years.
I had never in my 10 years ever seen Jonathan look like this. It was honestly terrifying. His eyes were bloody red. His face was blood red. He was screaming so aggressively. And that man, who is, taller than Jonathan and much more smooth, he was shaking like a leaf. Part of my anger, which I've expressed to other journalists, is that man was so vulnerable. I felt like he was
on the verge of confessing.
If he had not been protected, he couldn't speak up for himself.
Huge.
I'm going to leave that there.
She said he was shaking like a leaf on the verge of confession if he had not been protected.
Which means...
by the family.
Not to, like, assume, but allegedly this was a family vacation. So the family jumped in to protect him. And by the family, I am like... I mean, it's...
The family.
Yeah.
The family. And again, based on their comments, this is our opinion, what we're hearing, allegedly, he was protected by the family. So, I mean, if they weren't there, what would he have confessed to?
Seemed that way to me. That's how it seemed to me. Right. Until the situation was taken control of. So, then comes the part about, why did I scream for Jonathan? I screamed for Jonathan because I have a very long history of being extremely compliant and obedient and submissive. And this is not me saying nice things about myself. I don't know if it's even a nice thing. It is just the facts of... I always brought up multiple times and multiple witnesses of my concerns, frustrations, boundaries with my children. I was not allowed on our own children's photo shoots. The Christmas photos that were shown on the TV shows. I wasn't allowed on those. I had to just trust me.
This is weird. And this is definitely, I think it was in Candy's article.
Red flag.
She said, she like referenced the Kardashians about the like 100K honeymoon or whatever. But so then that totally sounds so like the Kardashians to be like, okay, there was a photo shoot with the kids at Daystar, a Christmas photo shoot, and their own mother was not allowed on the set. Like, why? Why? You're not allowed? That doesn't make any sense.
It's the strangest thing I've ever heard. That is
like wasn't allowed.
And some people would be like, well, why did you let that happen? Why? You don't understand the power of spiritual manipulation until you've been in a family like this right here. I mean, if you've been in ministries like this, you get it to a certain extent. But once you're in the family, the top brass of like one of the biggest ministries in the world, like TV ministries, I'm telling you, there are levels. When you hear the way Joni talks to Suzy in that private meeting with Jonathan and Jimmy, you realize this is how she talks to her. Mm-hmm. It seems that way. Yeah. It would seem that this is the way she talks to her. Submit. And so, and you don't, I heard another guy, I can't remember who it was, say this, but you don't get into one of these families unless you're submissive and unless you're willing to show that you're going to submit to the top. Mm-hmm. And she did. She submitted constantly. So they're like, hey, we'll take care of your kids. Trust us. And when you push back, it shows that you don't trust them. Right. And it's going to cause problems. It's going to cause problems for your husband, mm-hmm. for your future, for your show, for everything. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, wait, why don't I trust them? Well, maybe I'm just being crazy.
Yeah.
I'm the crazy one. Suzy, you were never crazy. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Like the scenario was nuts. Allegedly. Mm-hmm. Let's see where we're at.
You had to trust me. I had to trust my mother-in-law. I had to trust, that she would take care of them. And I had to do this in service to God. I had to obey and trust. And I'm not naive like I used to be. I was in my early 20s when I had my kids, and it was just programmed from then. You got to trust. You got to trust. Anytime I had any concerns, if I brought up anything that bothered me with my children, any kind of boundaries, I was shut down, scolded. These are traumatic memories. I'm not trying to be a victim. I am not a victim. I'm a very strong woman now, and God has taught me a lot. But this is the process. And that day, I just know, I'm not even that smart. I wouldn't have thought of this. In my gut, in my spirit, when I saw that man, I told my kid to go put on her swimsuit. I saw him turn and follow her up those stairs. And I just felt it in my gut, in my spirit, get Jonathan, they will.
I saw that man. I told my daughter, go put on your swimsuit. I saw that man turn and follow her. It's like boom, boom.
Mm-hmm. In the Julie Royce article, it said that his eyes turned black.
It did say that.
Which is so creepy.
But
like she saw something in him, like creepy. Like she was like, saw him turn and saw him like turn into a different person. And
that's real. Like, meaning obviously we weren't there. We didn't see that. This is her view of the situation. And we're commenting on her view of the situation. Just want to remind people that over and over again. But that's real. Those things do happen. Something takes over people when they're in that headspace. If that person, Pete, is allegedly like this, then something takes over somebody that dark.
Right. And in saying something takes over them, though, that is in no way absolving them of any kind of responsibility or accountability. Sometimes people will say that. They'll be like, oh, you're saying a demon took over him? You're saying a demon took over him? So he wasn't responsible for him, so he couldn't control himself, so he couldn't do this?
It's the activity that opens the door for demonic oppression, possession, whatever you want to call it. But it's like, in my opinion, demons got to have something to land on. Just the same way faith has to have something to land on. Like you got to be a person that's already opening those doors, and then like the devil has a heyday with people like that are already opening those doors. And so this does not absolve anybody of those activities that they've done that are like that or that are illegal, prosecuted to the full extent. People that have done those types of things. But yeah, there's definitely hell involved in that stuff for sure.
Not believe you, and that is the best thing that I could have ever done for my child. I wouldn't change one thing, because if I had not, and Jonathan,
she said, I knew deep down if I didn't scream for Jonathan and basically make a scene, no one would have believed me.
Right. If she would have been the one to follow them up the stairs, seen them in the room, freaked out on Pete, and then came down and told everybody, they would have been like,
oh, it's Suzy.
Suzy, you're being dramatic.
makes a lot of sense. It gives you some idea of the way they view her opinion on things too.
What did you feel when I came to you?
Yeah, I remember I was brushing my teeth. So I just felt a quickening in my spirit to like run. And so
I remember your toothbrush fell.
I dropped the toothbrush and I ran. I sprinted up because it was on the 3rd floor and I was on the 1st floor. I had to sprint up the 2 flights of steps. And to my horror, I get up there. There's Pete.
It sounds like, possibly, as I'm hearing this, they're on the 1st floor. She walks up the steps, and then they're down on the bottom floor. And so, hey, go put on your swimsuit. He turns, follows her. Could have been 15, 30, who knows how quickly. But she called him. He ran, and by that time, it's already...
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Sorry, I'm a little shaky. This is really hard to talk about. Whew. So Jonathan, I screamed. It was the best thing that I could have done for my child. I truly believe that if I did not scream for Jonathan and Jonathan didn't have such an aggressive, big reaction, today they would not even be admitting that he had followed her up the room or he was in the room. They can't deny it now because of this. And I know that gut instinct, that feeling, I'm thankful.
Absolutely.
Normally, am I a mama bear? Oh, you don't even know. I have gotten to so many fights. I have been beaten down and pushed into submission for being a mama bear. And I thank God with all my heart that the day came when he said enough is enough is enough. Whew, that was an intense one. Okay.
And a few days later, my father calls me and my brother-in-law into his office. He tells us that Pete has been cleared by this forensic examiner and that we need to submit and move forward.
Yeah, and all we ever knew in our lives,
There's that word again, submit.
we had ever done is obey and submit. We had never questioned.
Yeah. So
Even though I had big, strong doubts, I was angry. I'm not going to just lie and say that, I moved on. No, it was a big struggle. But the way that we were trained, God is our witness, Jonathan and I, you are going to be the future leaders. You have to take the lower road. You have to bring family unity. You have to do what it takes to be the bigger person. Go golf with him. You go have coffee, apologize to her. Do whatever it takes to be friendly and loving. That is the character of Christ. And we did it with all our hearts. We didn't perform. We weren't fake about it. We truly did it with all our hearts.
I can see them doing that.
I mean, it was very difficult, obviously, to move forward after that. Still, I had legitimate concerns, but at the end of the day, I trusted that my dad had actually gone through the process of clearing Pete with this examiner.
That's
He
so sad to hear.
believed his
That
dad.
sentence is so sad.
Yeah.
That sentence is so sad. His dad is gone now, and he let this go because he believed his dad. He trusted his dad had his best interest and his dad's granddaughter's best interest. And his dad lied to him about the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to their family. His dad lied to him.
It definitely would seem that his father lied to him about this. Why? Because allegedly there was a situation where they cleared him based on a forensic psychologist. And then in 2023, that same psychologist talked to Jonathan and Suzy and said, no, I didn't clear him. So that
And
would
there's
be
audio of that. So like,
if that's the way it went down, then that would be Marcus lying to Jonathan. And Jonathan is like, and Suzy's going, I didn't believe it, but also, what do you do? Like, wait, they did a lie detector, they cleared him, or whatever they did. What was it that they did? And
not
then,
even a lie detector test. I think that
It was a
he
psychological-
offered to do one or something, but they did like
Okay.
an interview that his wife answered all the questions. Per the Julie Royce article, they did an interview and his wife answered all the questions. Then they said, we need him to come back and answer some questions on his own. And he never came back. And then Joni Marcus reached out to them, was like, shut it down. We're not doing this anymore. I don't want anything else documented. So something interesting too about what they just said was that Jonathan said that Marcus brought him and his brother-in-law into the office and said that he had cleared him, which shows you still, which we knew from the beginning, that Rebecca and her husband believed this also. They believed it enough that Marcus had to be like, hey, this isn't true. I need you to submit to me and I need you to drop this and let's move on, to the brother-in-law too. So it's still just so shocking to me that Rebecca and her husband are MIA right now whenever they know all of this, and they sat with them through this in that meeting with Marcus, in the speaking in tongues family meeting right after all this happened on the family vacation. And now they are dead silent. And I know they signed an NDA, but I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I'm still like hoping and that they will do the right thing.
Yeah, maybe that's an appeal from little us out here in nowhere land to up there in the big castle. Like Rebecca, maybe consider joining your voice to the conversation and not being afraid to lose everything for the cause of truth.
Leaving your brother and sister-in-law and niece out to dry whenever you know that they are telling the truth. It is just so wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. In my opinion, it's a big family dynasty. And it's my opinion. It's a big family dynasty. And there's definitely a lot of money involved. And there's a lot of financial security if you toe the line.
Yeah.
Tons of financial security. And so, and I see people kind of even coming at Jonathan and Suzy because, oh, well, they had these incredible jobs. They're probably fine. I don't know their financial situation at all. But here's what I do know is that when you work in a place for a long time, in a family ministry, good money, all this stuff, just because somebody has a very nice house or makes a lot of money doesn't mean they're set up for life. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden, if their paychecks stop, that they were just expecting like those paychecks to stop. You know what I mean? So again, I don't know what's going on, but here's what I do know is that they're going to be in positions where they're going to have to figure out their life, and they've lived in a bubble for a very long time. Like that happened to me in a different way. I didn't get kicked out of a ministry, but like when I stopped doing ministry, I had only done ministry from the time I was 18. And so I just did not know. And I had to figure out a lot of new things. And like, and that'll be a process for them. And we'll pray that God shows them what direction to go, what it's going to look like. Who knows? But I just don't like to see people that have gone through this then get treated like that. Cause I saw that they had a GoFundMe. And then people like basically drug them online. They were like, how in the world are what's this money for? It's like, well, people were literally asking, can I donate to you guys? Can I help you guys? So Jonathan was like, well, sure, here's a GoFundMe. So like, I can't believe you're doing a GoFundMe. You're from this wealthy family. It's like, you think that he's trying to like find. So I saw somebody say, oh, is he raising money for legal fees so he can fight to get his presidential job? It's like, the dude doesn't want that. The dude wants justice for his child and justice for this whole situation.
Right.
Anyway.
And there was such an uproar that they actually took it down because they're like, okay, they didn't know that it would be such a conversation. And they were like, we don't want this to be distraction. So they took it down. And then people are like, oh, they took it down. Red flag, red flag. It's like, you can't
win.
People.
You can't win.
But I will say to everyone else, pay attention to the people who are so more like outraged by a GoFundMe than they are by the essay of a 5-year-old, because it's very telling.
And some of these people online are people that have like propped themselves up as though they're like, you know, the advocates for every abuse victim in the world or something. It's like, yeah. And then you see people, old names popping up from the IHOP KC days that
we're reliving.
It's like
2023. It feels like sometimes the same players. I'm like,
no kidding. And for those of you, it's like, what's our voice in this for? Well, it just is. I mean, it just is. And if you don't want to hear it, that's fine. We had somebody say, we got these kids trying to talk about this. And then they laugh and make jokes while they talk. It's like, no, actually, this is a long form podcast. We're married. I'm 42. My wife's 18.
Listen, I do not like it when you do that.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. My wife's not that much younger than me, but I won't say her age. But I'm 42. So no, we're not kids. And yes, it's a long form podcast. And yes, we're going to laugh because we're normal humans and we're not scripted and we actually like each other.
Yeah, just because we like laugh whenever it's something people think we're like gloating or something. Like, are you kidding me?
It's called having a sense of humor in the midst of pain and heartache. And anybody that would go to a therapist would say that's actually healthy to be able to do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
sorry, we're humans and have a full range of emotions.
I'll be an AI for you next time, and I'll just pretend like I'm sad about every statement that I make.
Anyways, the majority of people don't say that, but there's a couple of trolls who think that we're not allowed to smile.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. All right.
And we move forward. We still had a very strained relationship.
Oh, we had boundaries with our house. I went to Daystar one afternoon to grab something from the cafe.
This is painful to hear.
Was something in the green room, and I had my child with me, and I knew she was scared at this point, so we didn't take her there anymore. We had a nanny at home with her. But this one time, I wanted to pick up something really quick. I go in there. It's in the afternoon. I didn't think anyone would be in the green room. And I take her with me, and it's horrible. I go to grab that box of food, and in walks Pete and, his spouse. And my child was so full of terror, her body went completely limp, and she fell under the table hard. I grabbed her little body, I picked her up, and I ran into the car. And I remember telling other family members about it, the ones I trusted, and it was traumatic. I was like, I'm not bringing my child here. We didn't for a while. But these things were happening.
So after all this had happened, she had already reported that something had happened to her in 2020. Then this situation happened with Pete in the upstairs beach house or whatever. And then they're told that Pete is cleared from this by Marcus and Joni. Like he's clear from Marcus. And then she keeps her child away.
Right.
All the time. And then one day she has to bring her by Daystar. And lo and behold, Pete walks in the green room while they're in the green room. And the daughter's body goes limp.
That is.
If you know anything
so
about
terrible.
this type of thing, those are the things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go into this strained part of this relationship. This was the first time in our lives that Jonathan and I weren't having a warm, close relationship with his parents. Before that, we were so tight. And this was very, very hard. I mean, we cried a lot, and it was really painful. We get a text saying, hey, your dad's really sick. Can you come help? And of course, I was like, of course, I'll come spend the night. I'll stay on the couch. He was not in the hospital at this point, so I go stay on the couch, taking care of him, helping him walk to the restroom, do whatever, because we love our parents, and everything goes out the window at that point. Our child is safe, away from the person we suspect, but we will serve our parents.
And those that don't know, Marcus Lamb got COVID in 2021, and he died in, I believe, November of 2021 is when it was. So that's what she's talking about.
And we began to do that. From there, the hospital begins. You were there all day long while I was home with the kids. I was there night shifts. I would alternate with another person. Joni was there all the time. But on the nights that I was there, I thank God with all my heart for those nights. I got to really, there was no offense, no anger. I got to love on him. It was a very slow and hard death, but, got to, I would, rub his head because his head would get hot and my hands were always cold. So rub his head and rub oil on his feet. And I don't know if I should say this or not, but had the honor of, after he passed in his body, most people left. It was you and me, and I had the honor to close his eyelids. Just very deeply things that cause trauma. I'd never seen anyone die before. So our child, everything happens with her. Then Marcus dies, and then we go into full gear of Jonathan becoming vice president.
And there's such a small timeline from the time these events happened with Pete and me confronting him in the beach house to the time my dad passes away.
Whew. Joni starts dating this man.
So the small timeline was November of 2021 to, he died November 2021, but then like August or July or something, it was not that far before that whole thing happened at the beach house.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date.
Because they're not saying it. I can't remember it off the top of my head either, but I'm sure we could go back and listen to it.
Okay, I'll throw this in there. With all my heart, I wanted her more than anybody else to find love. I wanted her so badly to not be alone. I loved her. I wanted her to be happy. And then she starts talking to him. She says, trust me. We always trusted her. So we started to trust her until it was more October of 2022 when things started to change. We found out more details about divorce. We have Matthew 19. I started talking to pastors to get actual biblical counsel. So that's October 22 is when it started to get really, the tensions arose, panic attacks began, all sorts of things. And then from October, it's building until July of 2023 when I was fired because I stood on my convictions. Won't get into that at this point, but that's what happened. At that point, life got very difficult, complicated. Jonathan was trying to manage what to do.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, there became a giant rift in the family because Suzy had just been fired and stripped away of her ability to do ministry on Daystar after many years. And I also was removed from television to where I could not be on and continue. So we're just suddenly abruptly off television. And I continue on.
While telling the world we were on a sabbatical, which was a lot.
They told the world, allegedly, Daystar told everybody that Suzy and Jonathan were on sabbatical. But really, they just took them off the air.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're not okay with that. We're not okay with lies.
So, yeah, that was their way to cover, is that they would place me on a sabbatical. And so I continue on. I feel strongly from the Lord to continue in my role at Daystar. And I continue on. The board eventually gets to the point where they force me to sign an NDA to be able to stay in my position as vice president and on the board. And that's what you heard the clip of that was posted on YouTube. And I said, no, knowing what I know, I cannot sign an NDA. There had been so much spiritual abuse that we've gone through. There had been obviously questionable things going on with my daughter. But I said, no, I'm not going to sign the NDA.
And that was November 16th was that board meeting. And this is the crazy part. It was 2 days after Jonathan said no to the NDA. 2 days after, November 18th, we get the call to find out it was a cover-up. The people who supposedly did this investigation, both of them said, nope, it was shut down. We did no investigation.
So they were going to have him sign the NDA. And then it was 2 days after that
That they found out that the investigation never happened or that it was shut down.
And when was that? I gotta go back and hear the exact date.
Obviously questionable things going on with my daughter. But I said, no, I'm not going to sign the NDA.
And that was November 16th was that board meeting. And this is the crazy part.
This is like a few weeks ago.
No.
2023? Oh, the board meeting 2023. I gotcha.
It was 2 days after Jonathan said no to the NDA. 2 days after, November 18th, we get the call to find out it was a cover-up. The people who supposedly did this investigation, both of them said, nope, it was shut down. We did no investigation. That sends me honestly spiraling. I couldn't believe that level of deception and trauma. I mean, I had seen lies throughout, but this level, it was too much for my heart to even bear. I hit a downward spiral. I really did. And at that point, we knew we need to take action. So the best path of action forward is first find a counselor for our child. We went, found a counselor, told the counselor called CPS called the cops, and the detective called me back, reopened the case. Told him what happened on that vacation, all our concerns, and how we're worried about not only, yes, our child is out of danger at this point, we want justice for our child, but it doesn't matter whose child it is. Children must be protected. It's much bigger than just our story.
So this right here, yeah, I want you to comment. What are you thinking when you're listening to this?
Well, I don't know. She said it's much bigger than just our story, so
I think what she's saying,
I'm saying, like, I guess
they're
wonder
concerned.
If there's more, or if she knows there's more.
It would seem to me, let's just assume the best, not the worst. But if it was the worst, then she knows other things. But if it's the best, then she doesn't know of other things. But if it is one child, then it's most likely other children too. And if it's one child, then it's most likely going to be another child eventually. So that's the idea. So back to the whole thing of like, why didn't they do this earlier? Why didn't they do this? If you're listening to this podcast, now that should be clear to you. If you have a contention with that, please lay it out in a long form post or make your own video about it. Cause I'd like to actually see like where is the hole that you're missing, because there is, in my mind, the timeline is sealed when you add in the dynamic of psychological, emotional, and spiritual abuse. Yeah. If you don't understand that concept and the way that works in a person's psyche, then you're not gonna understand. You're gonna be like, you're just gonna blame them constantly, and that's gonna be some of the people. They're gonna just blame Jonathan and Suzy for not doing enough.
Yeah, everybody likes to think that they would handle this perfectly.
Yeah.
I see like one guy on Twitter that's like, oh, well, if this is real, if this really happened, then this is what they would have done. This is what they should have done. I'm not buying it. It's like everybody thinks they have all the answers. But
Yeah. Everybody thinks that they would do so much better in that situation. But when you take all the things considered, the way all of this was laid out, it makes a ton of sense. And the fact that these people are not hiding. They're just out here trying to tell their story. They're like, oh, okay, everybody's mad. Let's tell our story.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you want to give us money? Okay, here's a GoFundMe. Oh, you don't want to, you hate it? Okay, let's take down the GoFundMe. Yeah. It's like, everybody thinks that they're like after something. They literally left the ability to
listen. If people are asking you, I want to give, I want to help, I want to send you money, I want to do this, you know, you're going to figure out a way for them to do it. Anybody is. If somebody wants to give you money, if somebody has the means and like wants to give money to you, then you're gonna be like, okay, I'll figure out.
There's some. If you guys are not on Twitter or on X, you need to get an X account. There's some lady that was saying something that was dragging them about putting a GoFundMe up, and then this other lady came and found that lady's Twitter and her website, and then said, buy so and so a coffee, donate like $10 here, and she was like, is this you? Why can't you buy your own coffee? Or like,
yeah, it's anyway, so funny. Like I do get the like kind of uncomfortable feeling of it happening, and people who are like skeptical being like, what is this about? Like, I do get it, because there's so many people who do like GoFundMes and stuff like that. So I'm not saying it's not like a valid like feeling, but like if that's your main concern, and you're not talking about the essay of a 5-year-old, you're not talking about all the spiritual abuse that there is leaked audio of, you're only talking about the fact that you don't like that they made a way for people who were offering to give them money, they made a way for that to be easier, then like you need to like readjust your focus, because there's more important things happening right now.
Yeah, totally.
Hold on.
All right, let's keep going.
Not easy. Counseling can be extremely hard, digging into the places that your mind doesn't want to go, wants to protect you from. And it was really, really hard on our child. That process for a few months, every time she went through a session, when she came home the rest of the day, no one could touch her. She was on guard. Her body started breaking out like it did before. It looked like shingles, but it was eczema. Jeez. And I started to cry, because I was just like, I cannot see my child suffer like this. And I spoke to an older counselor, someone else, who said, you know, God has given our bodies this defense mechanism to protect us. Don't force it. Don't push it. When it comes out, it will come out in God's timing. You have to trust God. And so we talked to our counselors. That counselor said, go on a trip, let her rest, let her be a child again. Meanwhile, we start getting followed. I know I'm going through this really fast, but there's a lot of details. We're being followed. I'm terrified to go to the grocery.
We start getting followed.
This is like Scientology level.
There's a man taking a picture of me.
Taking
Outside
a
our house, we
picture
see
of her?
mysterious cars. It gets really bad.
Cars outside their house.
Jonathan, me, and our children, we just packed up, got in the car, and drove for days. And that's how we went to South Dakota.
And that's
Don't say where you are.
So
what we've clearly seen in this year 2024 is God is cleansing his bride. It says judgment begins in the house of the Lord. And he is exposing all this hidden sin and corruption and bringing it to the surface so we can do a new thing. And so this is part of that movement. God is using this exposure to cleanse his bride. And so we went to Julie Roy's back in August. And it wasn't up until November that she actually released the story. And now Daystar is doing their best from their PR machine to try to cover their bases. They're saying that I had a performance improvement plan that expired on November 15th. That's true. However, I was not coordinating a release of my story with the end of that plan. Far from that. We were ready to get our story out in August.
Okay, so the end of that's what I was thinking
that's what you
earlier.
were saying.
There was a plan that was up on November 15th, performance review plan. And I understand. Look, I understand as a person that has, been in charge of multiple hires or employees or, managed teams and things like that you can put a performance plan in place. And if it doesn't work out, then you can terminate somebody or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that is definitely, in my opinion, when I watch things from my viewpoint, from my vantage point over here, just watching the public statements on all sides, seeing Joni's public statement, she was like, Jonathan's performance review was up and he had not done what was required of him. And so we let him go. And he was also very burned. Basically, I don't remember the exact phrase, but paraphrasing, he was burned or disappointed that he wasn't going to become the new president. So the whole thing was just turning it on Jonathan. Anyway.
Which I have to say something really quick. I saw somebody, I wish I can remember who it was, posted this on Twitter, on X, how whenever, this is just a throwback for the IHOP KC people, whenever Jane Doe came out with her story, do you remember the emails that were released from Mike Bickle and that were leaked?
Yep.
And the people, the random bots on Twitter who started popping up saying that the reason she's doing this, the reason she's coming out with SA is because she did not get promoted and didn't get to be the president of IHOP-U. That she was just bitter and hurt because she was not made the president of IHOP-U. So she's making up a story of how she got SA'd by Mike Bickle when she was 19. It's the exact same thing.
It's the exact same thing. I'll say this because there's so many things I've seen the exact, like even with the audio where she basically curses on the audio, which everybody's like, that's not that big of a deal. Same thing happened with Sliker. He cursed on the audio. He was like, that's not that big of a deal.
He was like dropping F-bombs everywhere. He
was. Sliker
which was just like interesting for the...
And then Sliker says to the whistleblower, hey, I've been hearing you're saying things. He's like, what have I been saying? He's like, you know what you've been saying. He's like, no, tell me. I don't. Tell me what I've been saying. He's like, you know. The exact same thing happened in the audio with Jimmy Evans and Joni to Suzy and Jonathan.
Yeah, she's like, you said things. Terrible things. She's like, what did I say?
She's like, what did I say? Tell me.
She's like, oh, you know. It's like, no, I don't. What was it? Oh, I'm not going to repeat it.
You might just get a letter for that voiceover right there.
Well, it's just so wild to hear this. And actually, I guess this happens everywhere, but also even Michael Miller from Remnant Radio said that's what happened to him too, right? The same thing whenever he was like, am I making that up?
I think you're right. You've been talking. We've been hearing you've been talking. Yeah, basically.
And he's like, what did I do?
What am I saying? Yeah.
And they're like, you know what you did.
You know what you did. It's like what you do to your kids.
You
know.
And
wrong, your kid's like, what did I do?
Either way, it happens all the time.
Well,
it's like
I'm just going to say, I'm no like spiritual guru or anything, but I'll just say this. I really believe it is a spirit that is like a snake wrapping its tentacles around all these ministries. Like just, it's the same thing that's at the top level of these ministries, in my opinion, because it's literally the same manifestations behind closed doors. It's not.
It all looks the same.
It all looks the same when you corner these people behind closed doors and you say the same things. It's literally... like, I don't know what it is.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Wake Up and Win Insurance. We help clients all over the nation with their term life, whole life, or universal life insurance, and we're definitely happy to help you with a consultation.
Check the description below for more info.
the snake, Leviathan, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I don't think the solution is casting it out and praying real hard. Like, sure, all that's good. I think the solution is exposing it, literally opening the doors and shining the light on these backroom, like, crazy meetings.
Which, because it's very similar in all these different situations, that is the beauty of it, exposing it, is because people who are in this situation, who don't know they're in this situation, can listen to this conversation with Suzy and Joni, can listen to what's happening to them and be like, wait, that's happening to me.
Yeah.
This is how people are talking to me.
Yep.
These are how people are controlling me. I've got to get out of this situation. I am being spiritually abused. And that is the reason we're doing this.
Why
people
it's
are like,
important.
why are you doing this? Why are you guys talking about this? Like, you should be talking about, like, witnessing to people or something.
Yeah.
Like, we can't be Christians and also talking about corruption in the church. Well, that's not true, because there's so many people in the church that are still being, like, spiritually abused today.
Yes, and I will say, that's a great point. I'll say there's a lot of people that say, well, how are unbelievers going to come to Christ if they're seeing this? Like, actually, one reason why unbelievers don't come to Christ is they already see this. They already believe that it's corrupt. So to see people that care about justice and care about truth in the church, like, okay, now I might listen to what they have to say. The fact that we'd actually care, that believers would actually care about truth and honesty and integrity, could be mind-blowing. But yeah, I think that's just like when Armando was filming our podcast back in the day, and he was literally walking through the same manipulative stuff that we were talking about, and he was going, guys, this is happening to me at the church that I'm at. And if you guys want to watch that story, we interviewed Armando and Shayla for 3.5 hours about spiritual abuse and the way that it works. We'll link that. We'll also link to the Sliker audio, so you can put that there, and we'll also link in the comments below to the Joni and Jimmy audio. That way you can put it together, because I do think it's important for you to recognize if you're in one of these situations where you've just been submitting to people that are the voice of God for you, then you might even be doing it as in a pure-hearted way. It's still going to have the negative fruit in your life. Even if you're pure-hearted, you love the Lord, those are the perfect people that these people choose. Narcissists, spiritual abusers, in my opinion, choose pure-hearted people that fear God and love the Lord. They choose them that are humble, fear God, love the Lord, and they go, I'll be God to them. They'll fear me, they'll love me, and they'll be controlled by me.
Yeah.
That's when we went to Julie. However, she had a lot of other things on her plate.
Well, she had to do a deep investigation. This is the part that is important, I believe. Julie didn't just hear our story, feel bad for us, and start writing. She dug. We gave her hours and hours of worth of recordings and meetings. She went through so much. She has done due diligence.
It's a very extensive story. There's a lot to it. We gave her a lot of information. I gave her over 12 hours of recordings.
Yeah.
So from between getting all the other things off of her plate to the time she began getting into it and doing the investigation, it was from August through November. Julie, it's her due diligence to contact Daystar and my mother and the family members to get their side of the story. So she contacts them on Friday, November 15th. And I was subsequently fired the following day on a Saturday, November 16th. Now, throughout my time at Daystar, no employee has ever been fired on a weekend. We just don't do that. We fire people typically at the end of the day. A lot of times it's on a Friday. So there's proper exit procedures. So this was clearly a retaliation from me talking to the media. They wanted to fire me immediately after that. It's the day after Julie reports her story.
And how did they do it? Who showed up at our door? This is why we left our house.
We made that video earlier. Said we were going to go into an undisclosed location. We did. And of course, Daystar's security guard came to our front door in a bulletproof vest with a gun.
What?
Are you
bulletproof vest? Are you kidding me?
And posted my termination letter on the door.
And it's the same man who stuck the tracker in his car.
Yeah, so that's, again, the Daystar Mafia coming after us.
Okay. What? Did I not listen to this part?
Did you not?
Are you kidding me? So I already know they had the tracker situation on the car, which is already weird. It's not even allegedly, it's weird. Like, if Daystar can't recognize that putting a tracker on your son's car is not strange. Have you guys seen documentaries of Scientology? Like, then, we're going to fire him. Let's send a bulletproof vest security guard to our son's house where our little granddaughter is. Oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool. That's actually really awesome. You guys are doing awesome. I'm being sarcastic. Like, I want to be more sarcastic right now. Like, Jesus needs to flip some tables right now on this thing. That's sick. I'm just going to say that is, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, that is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard in my life about how to deal with one of your sons. For just the story leading up to it is pretty sick already. But when you're going to fire him, okay, fine. You don't like that he went to the media? Cool. Fire the kid. Fire him.
Yeah, I mean, that part I get. It's like, okay,
Makes sense.
they just
Yeah,
reached out wanting to know all of these things about you. So then it's like, yeah, okay, you probably aren't going to work here anymore. Like, I get that part, but it's also just kind of like, you're going to send a guy in a bulletproof vest with a gun to drop a letter off on a Saturday? Like,
get the heck out of here. Like, what are you doing? Christian mafia. What is this, like a cult world? Like, I'm the voice of God, and if you don't submit, and if you talk to the media, I'm going to send a bulletproof guard to your house to post a letter on your door. Oh, yeah, and even though you're my son.
well, it is interesting, too, because even in just talking about Scientology, it's like so many people cut off
Their family.
their family.
It's the same
you know?
thing.
Yeah, so it's just the similarities are weird.
Yeah, it's probably the same snake. There's something on it. It's disgusting, though. I hate it. I really, really, that was a live react right there, because I don't think I saw that part of that video.
Maybe
that
you didn't see the end, I guess.
literally, like, got me.
And so we were at a safe location. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with him,
We saw it on the camera.
but we saw it.
Okay, so here we are. Julie gets everything ready. Candy is a friend, a journalist who also wrote her article. She has a bigger, she's shared more things, and Julie is going in much more in-depth detail because she'll release recordings and evidence. Candy told our story. I met Candy months and months ago. I started talking to her, I think, in July, because all year from January of 2024, I had been begging God and waiting, or what are you going to do? Are they going to repent? It was a year of torture. Jonathan is standing and...
So literally, she's thinking that they might. This is so reminiscent of so many things that we've seen. And just praying, like maybe they'll repent, maybe they'll
Right,
open
you're
their
always
eyes
waiting
to see
for
it.
them to do the right thing.
Believing the best, hoping all things.
And going to the office every day was not just him holding on to a job. It was him in obedience, dying to self and going there while I was at home traumatized, shaking. What else are they going to do to threaten us? The final question of why are we going public? I think our answer explains why we had no other option. But I would say the baseline is it would have been much easier. We would have been okay to quietly walk away and keep our private lives private. Everywhere we went, people wouldn't look at us weird. And think about this, okay? Our child. This is the rest of her life. I would never share another victim stories. I know many other stories that I could tell, which would make our case stronger from the same ministry. But I will never.
She knows many other stories from the same ministry of victims. That doesn't surprise me.
That's scary.
It doesn't surprise me because the same thing happened. Actually, I'm just going to say, and I'm sure Christina would back me up in this, but we as a podcast are going to call on whoever's inside there that can have a voice to Daystar to call for a third-party investigation, an independent third-party investigation into these things. Obviously, there's something bigger already happening. The police are investigating the situation, but I'm saying a independent third-party investigation to investigate the ministry as a whole based on allegations like this, because these are pretty serious allegations. She knows other victims of these type of situations within that ministry. Yeah. They need to call a third-party investigation because what's happening behind the scenes with guys like bringing Jimmy Evans into there to do these type of things, and is that okay? Where's the board? Who is on this board? Like, I mean, I know Jonathan was. He literally told his mom, he's like, told the guy, he's like, I'm on the board. He's like, well, you're not her accountability. It's like, well, if the board's not Joni's accountability, who is? But anyway, like they need to seek out a third-party investigation for this. I think it would be smart to do. I think it might be a wise thing if they're into that type of thing.
I care if it helps me or not because justice comes from my God. I will never tell another person's victim story. I was never going to tell my story, what happened with that chiropractor, especially because he has a daughter and I met her and I loved her genuinely and I never wanted her to see this. Yeah. But here we are.
We did the beautiful thing of standing in solidarity with our daughter.
And those who did not know or watch the other videos, she tells her story on the part 2. Mm-hmm. If you watch part 2, she tells her story what happened with a chiropractor on the at the
which is something base. She never planned on sharing
ever, but she did it in solidarity with her daughter.
Yeah,
which I think is pretty cool.
I had no option. I couldn't put my child out there while hiding. Just had no option. But if it was up to me, I would never tell that story to anyone. So you can see the weight on our shoulders as parents to go and tell the world this about our child. It is something something I could only do with the full force and strength of God to do this. I tell you this before God. We have no unforgiveness, no anger, no agenda in our hearts. We want to see, as we obey God and we put our lives on the line, we have counted the cost. We put our family and our story out there for God to take these ashes and make it beautiful. in that same way, we want to tell you we love and we bless them, so we don't want anyone to attack them, but we do want accountability with all our hearts. Every leader, if you are on a platform, you should be bold enough to answer any questions and be cross-examined. If you can't do that, step back. You are not here to be a pastor or a leader and be a coward. Either you do the job with transparency and accountability, or don't, but that has to be a standard. So I encourage you all, ask questions. Don't be scared. Don't just submit and be scared, because we came out of that really controlling submission culture. And now I will always teach, we submit to one another. God is our covering, and the written word of God. Sorry, I get a little passionate there, but I just really want to tell you, we love our family. We forgive them. We're not sitting here angry at all.
And I think that's totally true. Yeah. But it's okay to be angry. I just want to mention, it's all right if you're angry. Yeah, this is something that abusers do, whether spiritual abuse or any other kind of abuse, psychological abuse. They take you the way that you did it.
Oh, Judah's awake.
Oh,
I gotta go, guys. 2-year-old.
We're gonna shut it down. I think I'll finalize with these thoughts right here.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, our 2-year-old's waking up, so she's gonna go.
Okay.
I love you. All right. So just to end it here, that is one way that abusers control people or whistleblowers, is they don't confront the actual issues. They confront, or they deal with the way that you confronted them or the way that you blew the whistle. And that's not what's mostly important here. What's mostly important is that, of course, there's going to be mistakes in the way people blow the whistle. They're being silenced. They're being controlled. They're being manipulated. And they finally got the courage to speak up. So this whole idea of, oh, you're angry. Oh, you're just angry. You're angry. Well, biblically speaking, the Bible says, be angry and do not sin. In your anger, do not sin. So just because somebody's angry, I mean, gosh, get punched in the face. Like, you're not going to be a little bit angry? That's okay to be angry. Something happens to your kid, you're going to be angry. Something happens to you, you're going to be angry. It's not like you walk through the story they've just told, you're going to be angry. But in your anger, do not sin. In your anger, be calculated and think through and pray about it, and then take actionable steps to confront the injustice. And that's what I believe Suzy's doing. I'm going to hear out the final part here and see what.
Joy and peace in our hearts. And now that the truth is out there in the world, we don't know what comes next. We just know that we have obeyed God. And as we have done to this point, we will go forward, and He will do what He does with our lives.
That's right. And the Lord has really led every step of the way, and we continue to trust Him as He directs our path. So that's an encouragement I want to give to you, is let the Lord direct your path. Stay tuned. We'll probably do some more updates as the days go by, but we love you all. Thanks for watching.
Be praying for Daystar. Be praying for Jonathan and Suzy. And be praying for their child, be praying for this whole situation. Let's actually just pray right now. Lord, we ask you for justice to reign. We ask you, Lord, to defend the cause of the weak and the needy. Lord, you judge between this whole situation. Look down, and we ask you to step in and pull back the curtain and open the eyes of the public to what's really going on. And I just want to share, I felt the other day, just like what's happening in the body of Christ is it's like the curtain from the Wizard of Oz is being pulled back. The curtain to show who's running the show behind the scenes. And you do not have to be intimidated to speak up when there's injustice. You do not have to be intimidated to disagree and go with your conscience. The old guard's voice of, she's the voice of God to this ministry. Submit. That is not the voice of God. You've got to listen to your conscience. You've got to listen to the voice of the Lord. And if you're walking through something like this, I'm not saying you have to go shout it to Julie Royce or go tell like a big story or something like that, but you do need to stand up for yourself, even if that means separating yourself. First of all, separating yourself from the situation is the first most powerful thing you can do, especially like in any type of abuse, like spiritual abuse or anything happening like that, stepping away from the situation. Okay. If you're in a church or a ministry, some people will be like, well, how am I going to be provided for? It's my job. God will provide for you. Okay. Like, I'm not saying you leave tomorrow. I'm just saying start calculating and start preparing, and God will open a door. All right. He will make a way, but you separate yourself. Then get counsel, get wise counsel. And then whatever way you're supposed to speak up or confront, do that in the timing that you feel is right. Okay. It's not for everybody to turn around and confront immediately. For me, it took a long time before I had to actually speak up about what happened at IHOP KC for me. And so anyway, everybody walks through their own process in that, but be courageous and don't be afraid, because God is pulling back the curtain, and the great and powerful Wizard of Oz, that looks so great and powerful, is really just like a spirit that's small and weak behind a curtain, pulling levers to make the body of Christ and believers afraid. And I'll say, with compassion in my heart for those at the top of the food chain in ministry that are wealthy, that are well-to-do, that have all the power, they were once just like you. Sincere, loved God. Something turned off course at one time. Maybe it was a theological issue that began to make them think a certain way. Maybe it was a compromise issue. Maybe it was just a little bit of white lies, whatever it might have been, an influence, a relationship, whatever it could have been. So we have to have compassion even in the midst of exposing. Okay, we can't demonize people because people are not demons. People do evil, demonic things, but people are not demons. Okay, so like you look at these situations like Jimmy Evans, I get it. People are like probably throwing stones, but he's not demonic. He's not this evil person. He has a viewpoint that led him to speak this way. Now, I hope there's not other things going on behind the curtain in his life. I have no clue. I literally have no idea. Joni, she is not like terrible. She is whatever's going on in her life to this point. I mean, her husband, and this is public, allegedly had affairs for 7 years, or an affair for 7 years. I mean, that affects a person negatively. And so when he passed away and this man pursued her, I can understand why she responded. I can understand that. And I'm not saying it's okay or is right. I don't have a strong opinion on that. But Jonathan and Suzy clearly did. And some of the other kids allegedly did as well. So I'm not saying this woman is demonic and evil, but what she's doing and the way that she's responding in these things, in the theology that she's spouting, in the control mechanisms, I would say are not healthy. And I don't think they're righteous. And so in our exposure, in our confrontation, in our seeking of justice, there must be compassion. Because at the end of the day, we want everybody to come to repentance, everybody to return to their first love, and everybody to be together around the banquet table of the Lord in the end. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. Whatever your eschatology is, I mean, we're all going to lose our breath someday, and we're going to be standing before the Lord. So we want justice to prevail in hearts today, so people aren't carrying things with them to that judgment seat, and it's terrifying to think of. So let's expose for that purpose. Let's call, because you can't have unity unless unity is based on truth. We can't have just pretending relationships. Confrontation is okay. Confrontation, even to those in leadership, is okay. Don't be deceived by the honor culture that says, don't uncover a leader. It's not about uncovering. It's about confronting unrighteousness for the purpose of serving that person, but also all of those that are under their care. Okay? All right, guys. That said, take care. Peace out. And I will be back with another episode soon.